in the void of answers, humans always fabricate the answers that they want to hear. Jesus was high on crack. Oh yeah. How did that Eucharist taste? And it sounds like I was like a prodigy, which I was. Make sure you're relaxed. And do I look relaxed? I'm really scared of being judged about my decision to leave my religious upbringing. I grew up in a Catholic family, but I figured they're gonna judge me anyways. Might as well get paid for it. I mean, it's no joke. They all know I do not practice the faith anymore. When I go to weddings, the vow renewals, or my parents have offered to take me to church, I always decline or just simply do not go up for communion. I think that sends a message. Well, if you've ever wondered why I struggle with mental illness, religion. Trust issues, religion. Body dysmorphia, religion. Obsession with control, religion. Okay, well, let's talk about how Catholic my family was. When I say Catholic, I mean 2 generations of 8 kids in a family. So you tell me that's Catholic or not, whatever that means. So anyways, my great-grandma had 8 kids. My grandma had 8 kids. And I am one of 4. The oldest, meaning I was the guinea pig for all of the Catholic shenanigans that I was privy to growing up. Oh yeah, military Catholicism. Big explosion. Of course, my life is very nuanced and I'm only speaking from my perspective, but I can attest to the Catholic and military kid experience that it was fucking traumatic. For 17 years until I was able to escape and go to college, I went to church every Sunday. You'd catch me in the pews every holy day of obligation. Every month I went to confession. You see, deep down, ever since I was a kid, I hated going to church. Not because it was boring, not because I wasn't able to talk during the service, not because I wasn't able to eat my snacks. Primarily because, I know this sounds silly, and it sounds like I was like a prodigy, which I was. I didn't agree with what they were saying. Like literally none of the scriptures, none of the tie-ins to present day life, news in the media made sense. I remember hating church so much at one of the churches we attended that I would steal toys as a preschooler from their nursery room. What would Jesus do? And I'm still shocked that to this very day I came out alive. Or did I? Because did I make it out alive? I'm living with BPD, BP, OCD, CPTSD, OCD. Did I say OCD already? I'm losing it. Thank you, religion. Okay, I'm not trying to like fully hate on religion. I know there are very huge benefits to leaning on a community of faith for refuge and for help during difficult times. But again, I'm only speaking and attesting to my experience in the Catholic Church as a military kid, born into this multi-generational Catholic explosion of a family. I remember being at Life Teen camps, which for those of you that don't know what Life Teen is, it's pretty much like Young Life. But in Catholicism, there is a camp franchise where Catholic kids can go and do adoration, be in a concert setting, like celebrate with music and witness keynote speakers in like motivational settings. And I'm not gonna lie, some of the experiences are tear-jerking and they're definitely emotional. I mean, I'm privy to crying anytime someone tells a story about death or animals, and both of which happen. They do that to specifically trigger emotional responses within you so that you are compelled to feel like you have to have a religious experience. And I was one of those people. So I felt like I needed to show some proof of my faith. Luckily, in one of these Life Teen camps, I had a little notebook in my little drawstring bag, so I took it out, found a pen somewhere, and then started journaling violently about, I don't even know what. I wanted to give off the impression that I was having a religious experience so that my camp counselor would know that I was involved and actually would have something positive to report to my parents. You see, I had a history of being bad at Life Teen camps. It all started when I was a junior in high school, and I made a petition on the bus for us all to get our phones back because they were confiscated upon arriving. So I drafted up a petition saying that, oh, my grandparents are old, who knows when they might die. Some of us have like anxiety and we need our phones to contact friends. And then we arrived at camp. So I materialized some tape out of somewhere and pasted the petition on the camp kitchen door. The camp counselor then goes over the loudspeakers, announces that she's found the petition, and calls me to her office. She's sobbing, and she's saying like, oh, you ruined my day, all this and that, like blaming it on me as if taking away my phone was my fault. Obviously this was all very juvenile and I shouldn't have protested having phones at a camp that was supposed to be religious, but come on, I hated religion, I hated Catholicism, I hated my camp, and I hated being restricted by my parents telling me to do a life teen event. I was just adapting to my circumstances. But you know how I was saying how in those religious experience settings like the life teen camp, there was a congregation center, like the central space where everyone gathered. That's where we'd have our motivational speakers, keynotes, and daily prayers, mass, and adoration and all that. One night there was a concert, and it was live music, there were lights flashing everywhere. I mean, you would think it was the fucking Tony Awards by the level of production that was actually built into this concert. It just brings me to think that anyone who's extremely religious and refuses to do anything extremely social outside of church gatherings just needs to go to a fucking live music event. Any combination or activation of one sense or many senses at the same time, such as audio-visual, music and lights. Music is a religious experience because it is a multi-sensory trigger for emotion. Especially when you're with other people, it is easy to feel in communion with them. And I remember my mom was driving me back from winter break one college semester, and it was actually the night my worst manic episode began, but that's for a whole other video. My mom was driving me back to campus, and she was like, oh, so how's your faith doing? Like, let's check in on where you're at with your relationship with Jesus. I was trying to strike a chord with my mom. I wanted to make her feel guilty for having put me through so much religion throughout my entire upbringing. I know I kind of skipped over this and didn't go into detail, but religion is privileged when the narrative it plays is convenient for the person in power. The narrative that Catholicism puts out of guilt, original sin, and needing to repent really played into my dad's parenting style, wherein I constantly owed him something. My dad would utilize and rationalize for his behaviors based on biblical teaching, based on teachings that were said in church. I remember there was one time we were at mass and the priest literally said or quoted something like, obey thy parents and God will not forsake you, or something like that. And my dad literally quoted that night when he threw me into a wall. Oh, did I say that? I promised I wouldn't say that. Oops. So when religion is supposed to enlighten us and bring us to be children of Christ, preaching the Christian values out to the world, it instead compelled my dad to become more violent. It's a waste of time to worry about religion when we were put on this earth to live in the moment. I just find it hard to believe that any one religion can actually be compelled to believe that they are the best or they are the only sole truth. It's funny because different faiths constantly battle out over their dogmas and what they dictate to be religious law in their respective texts, and they make up answers so that people will fall into line with the law. Religion is a political machine. I just think it's interesting how across the course of time, different cultures, languages, peoples from across the globe have interpreted life very similarly. There are patterns in interpretations of religious texts, whether it's written in stone or on paper or in a book or on papyrus. There are texts that dictate spirituality and presence of either, what is it called? I'm trying to think of, I didn't even have to look it up, it was loading. Monotheism and polytheism. Okay, so whether it's a monotheistic or polytheistic religion, different cultures have come up with the answers for the afterlife, what we need to do to be immortal, essentially. And what I'm saying is that maybe the key isn't immortality. Maybe the key isn't to finding out what the missing piece is, thinking outside the box to uncover what the puzzle that our creator has put together is. More so how do we find the key to living in the present so that we can truly enjoy where we are now? Because we don't have any absolutes for the future. We make up answers to comfort us about the future, yet we can't seem to enjoy our present. I just wonder why we waste so much time like hypothesizing who this creator is when we will not know who they are until we die. It's just a waste of time to worry about religion. It's comforting to know that we just all don't know. But why believe facts that another human being has come up with when you don't know for a fact that it's true? Why am I listening to this perverted, child molesting fucking priest talk about goodness and morality and how I should be an ethical citizen of the United States? And maybe I'm generalizing, but for those who are mentally ill, religion is not comforting. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that Jesus was a real, historical figure. There is no doubting that he was present upon this earth as a human being. Whether or not this man was doing crazy amounts of drugs and just trying to get people to do good things is unbeknownst to me. But I can't deny the fact that his teachings were good. They were ultimately, remarkably far ahead of their time in terms of establishing peace, acceptance, and privileging everyone instead of being discriminatory based on class, race, language, anything like that. Jesus' teachings were ahead of his time, for sure. But the way in which political entities latched onto its values to further their own agendas, that took the teachings too far. My problem is that in the same way that the Bible, the Old Testament, is very metaphorical in terms of Noah's Ark and Adam and Eve being in a Garden of Eden, and Jonah, Nineveh, the whale, all these grandiose, obviously not true stories, like Abraham living until he was 200 or something. Those are metaphorical, meant to teach us lessons. If Jesus said, "I am the Son of God," why can't that also be metaphorical in the sense of I embody the truths of God? Either Jesus was high on crack, thinking he was the Son of God, or, he was the Son of God, but metaphorically. It's been a long time. I'm 24 and I haven't been to church in a while. I just feel that religion holds you back from being yourself in the present and actually enjoying yourself in life. Religion discounts pleasure. For example, the whole no sex before marriage thing, stay abstinent, save yourself for your partner. Oh, and your opposite sex partner, by the way. It just completely negates the human experience. It says, strip everything away from your needs, your instincts, and become basically a monk. The obsession of the future in a religious context prevents the human being from living in the present. I know this sounded like a rant from a very angry teenager. What do Catholics talk about? Hey, did you see Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? No. How did that Eucharist taste? Mighty dry and bready. The body of Christ. Well, that was my rant about my upbringing in the Catholic faith, so now you know. And if you want some more information on my mental health backstory, my history with bipolar, borderline, mental illness, check out any of these videos. We'll talk later.